It's a show that's been.
Guys, just talking about cursive writing.
Well, I have another thing.
Yeah, sorry.
If you are watching this on YouTube, thanks,
Buddy,
first of all.
You got it.
But I thought we were getting closer to Mr. Beast.
I told you.
It turns out Mr. Beast has 400 million subscribers.
Yeah. Wow. This is what I told Wild.
And I'm like, we're not close at all.
No, buddy. This is the furthest we've ever been away from him and the closest we'll ever be.
Well, why is everyone telling me we're getting closer?
Nobody's telling you that. Oh, bro. That's a breakfast ball bit.
That's actually.
That's not our bit.
I get it. Is anybody on breakfast ball from Indianapolis?
No, but it's
then
mocking Craig.
It's my bit.
No, it's Danny's bit.
Danny's not
Craig.
from Indianapolis. Carton.
No. Carton's from New York.
Stink.
It's mocking him.
No.
None of them.
Okay.
Stink's from Alaska.
Yeah, that is true.
When Alaska wins something, he can have his own money.
And we're starting with the Pacers dispatching of the Knicks. Siakam and Halliburton combined for 52. Indy's defensive pressure proved to be too much for New York. Lots of turnovers. Super teams are out. Power of friendship is in.
Bad beat for the Nova crew then, because then they should have been their superpower.
Dante,
yeah.
I told you guys. What was your number one takeaway?
Well, first of all, look, I'm contractually obligated to do this. Knockdown! That's number one. That is my number one takeaway. Okay. Number two, I like what Myles Turner said. Now, the aprons and, the new CBA, all that stuff, or the latest CBA, that does make it tough for, 3 max players on a super team. It's just going to make it tough. But I think Wilds...
We're laughing at the screen, bro. What they're setting you up for failure.
Indestructible.
No, coming up, NBA Finals pick at 4. Will Brew abandon Naptown?
Naptown, never. You are always in my heart. No matter what I say an hour from now, you are always in my heart.
All right.
But team basketball prevails. That's what I got from this series.
It's interesting.
I have always said, when the talent is close, fairly close, now it doesn't have to be exact, but fairly close, a team that plays 5-man basketball will generally beat a team that plays 1 or 2-man basketball. And that's not just the Knicks, and I'm not calling them selfish. I'm just saying styles of play. All right, Indiana averaged 58 more passes per game than the Knicks did in these playoffs. And Indiana was second in the playoffs in passes to Golden State, which is another team that, as great as Steph Curry is, and other than the Durant years, always was better than even the sum of its parts, which it has some great parts. Indiana averaged 9 more assists per game than the Knicks in these playoffs. And Indiana leads it. Indiana's the only team to average more than 26 assists a game in the playoffs. They averaged 28. The Knicks are they were 14th out of the 16 teams that made the playoffs. So they were one of 3 teams to average fewer than 20 assists. All right. And so Indiana's superstar is a pass-first point guard. Still give you 20, but a pass-first guy. And New York superstar is a ball-dominant, shoot-first point guard, at least in this system. Now, I think he could play differently, but that's how he plays with the Knicks and Thibodeau system. And I just think, that team basketball, they had 8 guys average 8 or more points.
Yep.
Knicks had 5. This was a team. I mean, Halliburton, we say is a superstar. Whether you think he is or not, he's certainly ascending toward that. But he is a guy that gets everybody involved. They are just a great team. And I agree, Turner, they're a little different than OKC.
Yes.
But similar in many ways, too. One star, legit.
Both have Paul
perennial
George
all-star.
to thank for their superstar. And
That's true, too. But, just a team, a lot of camaraderie and youthful energy.
So, listen, maybe this is a bad job by me. I hadn't actually heard that sound. I'm really glad that that's what he said. Because my first line is, they are a great team for this era, particularly in this conference. And so, listen, LeBron made 8 straight finals in the East. Since then, it's been 5 teams make the last 7 and no team made back-to-back. And the reason I mention that is because since LeBron left the conference, aside from Giannis and really he only had one healthy year where he was fully healthy and the supporting cast fully healthy, the conference hasn't had that, like, pantheon superhuman guy levitating above the conference where it's like, well, it's going to take a disaster for that guy, that team not to make the finals. And because of that, what you have seen through the teams that have won the East and really the teams that have won the championship in this mini era, they have similarities to this Pacers team. A clear-cut identity, which is, if it was the Nuggets, it was the Jokic-Murray high screen and roll. The Celtics, a bunch of threes, leaning on good defense. The Warriors' identity has been very clear for a decade now. The ball movement centered around Steph's gravity. These guys are going to get out and run. So you have a clear identity. You have not necessarily like one super-duper star, but two high-quality all-stars, which Jokic and Murray. With the Bucks, it was, Giannis, Middleton, Drew. They actually had a third. Tatum and Brown. For these guys, it's Halliburton and Siakam. And to Brew's point, 7, maybe 8 guys you are totally comfortable with playing real minutes depending on the night, to where for them, going to their bench, deep to their bench, means guys like Tony Bradley or Thomas Bryant or Ben Shepherd. Bryant was big. Those 3 threes. Those aren't guys 6, 7, 8 the way they would be for Denver this year or the Lakers this year. Those were guys 9, 10, and 11 because they have Hallie, Siakam, Turner, Nembhard, Nesmith, Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin, and T.J. McConnell. Those are their 8 guys. And then I think for them specifically, I think it's fair to say Pascal Siakam is underrated universally, including by me. I looked on the King of the Hill. He was in the 9th row, in the 7th row, in the 6th row, at various times throughout the year. This is a guy who was awesome in a finals. You know what I mean? When they won a championship, has been a consistent playoff guy. And so, I think for their conference in this era, I think they are built really smartly.
Okay. On the other side of the ball, Kylie Jenner can cancel that trip to Oklahoma City. Knicks lose in 6. This was New York's first back-to-back 50-win season since my junior prom. Here's the Knicks the last 4 seasons under Tibbs. They get better and better. They missed the playoffs 2022, then 2023 they lost in the Eastern Conference semis. That was back-to-back, and then they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, do you consider this a successful season for New York? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, I know it hurts now. I saw Ramsey. He's a mess right now.
He's not great.
And I do get this because as they were clearly en route to beating Boston, I may have even said it on the show, but I certainly said it off the show, if not on. Can you imagine, this wasn't disrespecting the Pacers, but the Pacers were the 4th seed. The Pacers were no one's pick to win the East when the season started, when 2025 started on the calendar, when the playoffs started.
Yeah.
And so if you're the Knicks and you beat Boston and then you lose to Indiana, it would crush you. And that's what's happened because they felt, because of seeding and other things, they should have beaten Indiana. And I don't think, Knicks, you see this happen sometimes. I don't think this was a case of the Celtics was their championship. Like, this was, sometimes a team gets over the hump and then it's like they relax or whatever because that was such a big deal. I don't think that was the case. The Knicks just played tough. Every series they played was constant. Detroit was a tough series for them. I think
they were down double digits in every playoff game they played except for the last game against Boston.
So there's something, right. Every game was an uphill battle. But overall, when the season started, no one expected the Knicks to be in the conference finals. You thought it was a chance, but they certainly weren't written in like they're definitely getting there. When the season ended, it was Cleveland and Boston, clearly. You beat Boston, and this was clearly the best season of the century for the Knicks. They haven't had a great history. All right, this is the first time they've been to the conference finals since 2000. I was covering them at that time, So they had 2 All-NBA players, Nick, for the first time or the second time since 1971. All right, so I think overall this was a great season for the Knicks. I do think, and we'll get into it later, they can build on this. And I get it. It hurts right now. You rightly feel like you could have got to the finals, but this was out and unquestionably a good season for them.
So I agree. It was a successful year. I think the day of the start of the season, I do think a lot of people thought they could be a conference finalist because people hadn't elevated Cleveland. You know what I mean? Like when they put
I would say, would you argue people even would have thought Milwaukee ahead of the Knicks?
I think some. I should have looked up what the actual odds were. The team we're just throwing out that people were bullish about was Philly because they had just added Paul George. But the Knicks, it was clearly Boston here, and then to me a group of Knicks, Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Philly as who's going to be playing Boston in the conference finals, with Indiana honestly not kind of an also ran in the discussion. So I agree with you, but then during the year when they couldn't beat a good team and when all that was happening, it looked like they were, and the bracket had kind of set to where it's like, oh, it's probably them against Boston in round 2. They have a hard round 2 ceiling. So just beating Boston makes it feel like a successful season. I think the key for the Knicks is making sure it is a successful offseason. And I'm not talking about the moves. I know we're going to talk about potential moves later. And the way this series and playoffs went, I think all of their major characters can look themselves in the mirror and say, I could have been better. I think Jalen Brunson can say, as great as I have been as a Knick, I had some of my absolute worst postseason defensive moments in the biggest. Yeah. And I think that I think Game 5 against the Pacers, was it Game 5? Game 4 against the Pacers, pardon me. They won Game 5. He was as bad defensively as any star has been in any playoff game in recent memory. I think that is something for him to be like, I've got to just provide more resistance. For Cat, it's watching that fourth quarter on repeat that saved their season or temporarily saved their season in Game 3 and being like, can I activate that a little more often? You know what I mean? That aggressive nature.
And defense for him, too.
Right. Obviously, defense for him. Mikal Bridges, I think, was a little underwhelming this year, start to finish. I thought it was fine, but a little underwhelming. And then this is what I will say about Tibbs, who I think did a really good job. I think we always talk about the minutes and the playing the starters from the vision of, our guy's going to wear down, our guy's going to break down, our guy's going to run out of gas. The other unintended consequence of that is if you are in a series where one of your guys doesn't have it, or like Josh Hart seemed to not have it, or your starting unit just needs to be shaken up, you don't have a ton of reps with the bench guys to know. Like, it seemed like he found out during the playoffs, I like Landry Shamet more than Cam Payne. DeLon Wright, now he was a midseason acquisition. He actually can be useful enough to where some of the biggest shots of our season, and Knicks, that's probably not what they wanted, being taken by him.
They had lineups out there that had not played during the regular season.
Correct. Not 1 minute together. And so if you are a little less zealous about getting, every regular season win, or, you know what I mean, guys can play 44 minutes, it's fine. Not because they can't, but because you need the real-time, experience and data. I think Tibbs should look at that. Because if you're Tom Thibodeau, you are a universally respected coach. You have been varying levels of success at every stop. Yet you have hit a hard ceiling in the playoffs. And if it were a player, we'd say, you need to go in the lab and add something to your game. As a coach, I don't think it's unfair. And a guy who they're not at all similar personality-wise, but they are career arc-wise, who never did was D'Antoni. D'Antoni had a similar thing where he was in conference finals and we're going to run my system. And he never adjusted, and he could never break through. So I think for the Knicks, they all should look in the be proud of what they did, but look in the mirror and say, what can we do better if this is the unit?
I do agree quickly. I agree with that. I'll say some things I think Tibbs should look at later on in the show. To defend Tibbs, this is really the first year. And again, I think Indiana was slightly better. But this is the first year you could really say with a Tibbs team, like you can fairly say they should have got to the finals. Like once they beat Boston.
They were
because
the
the Chicago teams he had that were great, they ran into Miami with LeBron and Wade. They had Derrick Rose and so he's always overachieved with those groups, and people say he can't get you over the hump. Well, this is the first year you can really say, okay, he could have got you there, and he didn't.
Yep.
Otherwise, I mean, Miami was better than that Chicago team.
Just quickly before we talk about the Larry Bird Award, is there anything to this been bopping around the internet that Clutch Points had it? Since 2022, every team that lost in the Eastern Conference Finals ends up making the finals the next year. 23 Heat, 24 Celtics, 25 Pacers. Do you think this is sort of a sign of what's to come with the Knicks?
Oh, I mean, I think they could. I think the East next year, depending what happens this offseason, will be the most wide open a conference has been. And again, maybe Pacers fans are like, gosh, we can't even get respect. Like, we should be the favorites. And maybe they will be. You know what I mean? Maybe they should be the favorites. But the Celtics being, to me, take that chess piece off the board as far as winning the conference, assuming Tatum's out for the year, makes it, you know what I mean? If I'm my buddy Daryl Morey in Philly, I'm like, we're alive. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm like, Giannis, you sure you don't want to give us? No, but I bet he thinks he is. Right. I think everybody's got to feel like
it's a weak conference. Let's keep it real. As much as I love Indy, it's a weak conference. Right. I mean, next year, especially with Boston not having Jason Tatum, it's wide open, and sure, the Knicks should feel like they got a legitimate shot.
Finally, Pascal Siakam named Eastern Conference Finals MVP, even though it looked like Halliburton thought the award was his. All right, so we had a little spot shadow on Halliburton, who starts to make a move towards the podium. We don't think it was to congratulate Siakam, but after the game, they seemed very happy with everything. What was your reaction to this moment?
Look, I have no problem with Siakam winning it. I would have cast my vote for Halliburton. He had the bigger clutch moments. Siakam was more consistent.
Yeah.
But even in this game, it was Halliburton down the stretch, 11 points, 4 assists in the fourth quarter. But this is not high-rate robbery. No problem with Siakam getting it. Here's my big take, though. I don't like this award.
Thank you.
You love it?
No, I don't like it, or I definitely don't love it. I love the finals MVP, but there's still work to do. And this potentially, I'm not saying it is, and I would imagine it's not. I don't think it is causing division or angst. But last year, when Jason Tatum didn't get it and went to Jaylen Brown, it was a big deal. And it's almost like the superstar has to win it, or criticism is coming, and you still got work to do. So I don't like that. It could make a Halliburton, and again, I don't think he feels this way, but it could put in his mind, you're upset that you didn't get it, you feel like you should have got it, or you go into the next round feeling like, I got to get it. I got to do more. You might get outside of your game. I don't like it. Just keep finals. When you win in the finals, it's over. You got a whole offseason. I don't think they need this award.
So a couple things. One is your pal Bill Simmons, I think, had a good idea, which is if you're going to have this award for each conference, have it be that conference playoffs. Player of the Eastern Conference playoffs, player of the Western Conference playoffs.
Would be better.
I think that's a cool idea.
It would be better.
Like there's a conference champion trophy. It's like its own tournament. Like, hey, and that would open probably it up to
you
more.
Agree with what I'm saying?
I agree. I understand what you're
saying.
Now
it would come from the winning team.
Usually, maybe, but I think that just like Brew, just like you. I mean, there would be. I'm sure when you played. I'm not being smart aleck here, high school basketball or whatever, there would be like an all-tournament team at the end and a tournament MVP. That wasn't always from like there were guys from the winning team and tournament, right. So it could be something like that. Then two other quick things. One is, this is the thing. Remember I told you I was going to tell you a mortifying
he came into my office. He's like, I have a mortifying personal anecdote I want to share on air. I was like, I don't know.
So we don't talk. Brew's the only one who talks about his athletic career on this show because Brew was a high-level amateur athlete. I was not, but I, like most people watching, played high school sports. I was Tyrese Halliburton for my senior year of high school or junior year of high school for the Hustle Award at the banquet. It's so much. They described it. I was like, damn straight. Stood up, not me.
You stood up.
Stood up. I mean, yeah, we're all sitting. Stood up, ready to go, not me. My buddy Muhammad won every single award. I was like, he was team MVP. How does that happen?
You can't be MVP and
exactly. That's what I thought. That's why it should have gone to me.
This guy's not good, but tries hard.
Exactly. That's why it should have gone to me. Last point, because I feel like the other downside of this is sometimes like Siakam won it and people who think Halliburton should win it, feel like some of the conversations actually kind of like ripping Siakam.
Yeah,
and that shouldn't be. So I just want to put up Siakam's career. It's against a player. Well, I mean, it's a blind reveal. Look, I mean, All-Star's a little short.
I wonder who
All
that
NBA.
is.
I mean, we can look at it. And by the way, I think there it is. It's Reggie.
They were scoring 65 points a game back then.
And by the way, I think that's a misprint because I think Siakam's got the 3 All-NBAs to Reggie's 2. I could be wrong. Troy's probably got it right. Regardless, Siakam's the only second team. I just know Bruce saying Halliburton is the new Reggie Miller. Looks like Pascal Siakam's already surpassed him. So it's what people are saying. And no Eastern Conference
Reggie
Finals
was
MVPs.
clutch.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.